This is a special report from ABC News.
Time. I'm Peter Jennings in New York. We believe that something is going on in Iraq. We know something is going on in Iraq. We do not know what. Let me just very briefly bring you up to date on what we do know. Reporting from Saudi Arabia and Washington tonight confirms that there has been unusual American air activity in the area of the Persian Gulf. And ABC's Gary Shepard is currently on the line from the Al Rashid Hotel in the western sector of Baghdad. And Gary, bring us up to date very quickly on what you have been seeing over the last 5 or 6 minutes.
Peter, we have been watching an incredible display of anti-aircraft fire shooting up from the ground, looking west from the hotel. Huge tracers, red staccato-like fire going up. The sounds of thunderous explosions, yet no apparent bombs falling on Baghdad. And I should point out that a great number of the lights in the city are still burning. Street lights have not been turned off. We can see lights as far as the eye can see along the horizon. And yet this anti-aircraft fire continues now. It must be a good 10 minutes since it began.
When, Gary?
It comes and goes, it subsides for a bit, and then it starts up again. There have been very, very pronounced thunderous sounds like explosions in the distance, and the tracer fire continues. There goes another burst right now off to the right, almost straight up from the ground, essentially burning itself out. And as far as the eye can see, the far right, way over to the far left, this tracer fire continues and the explosions continue to erupt. So it's difficult to decide exactly what it is, but obviously something is underway here.
Okay, Gary, stand by for just a second as we look at the map there. Let's please stay with the map, because there are, of course, numerous targets in and around Baghdad, the capital. Very close, in fact, to where Gary Shepard was just broadcasting from. He is broadcasting from the Al Rashid Hotel, or phoning us, we should say, which is right there in a bend in the Tigris River, in the middle, really basically in the middle, if we could have a map of Baghdad, the city, of a considerably large complex which contains a number of targets which interest the United States. The presidential palace, some command, communications headquarters there, the headquarters of the Ba'ath Party, President Assad, President Hussein's palace. And outside Baghdad there are a number of targets, airfields around Baghdad, and also missile sites as well. Let's go to our Pentagon correspondent Bob Zelnick, who's standing by to see, Bob, if you can confirm what Gary Shepard is seeing.
Peter, at this point we still have no Pentagon confirmation, although we have been told that some announcement will probably come not from here but from the White House rather than the Pentagon.
Okay, I wonder if ABC's Bill Rediker is still standing by in Saudi Arabia. He was with us a short while ago. Bill, there in Dhahran in Saudi Arabia, can you confirm any of this aircraft activity in the air?
Well, as we reported a little bit earlier this evening, we did notice quite a bit of increased fighter jet air activity out of this part of Saudi Arabia. We counted approximately 20 planes taking off in about a half-hour period of time. That was about an hour ago. About 2 hours ago, ABC radio reporter John Bascom reports in that at an Air Force base in the central part of this country, a squadron of fully armed F-15 fighter jets took off at approximately 12:50 a.m. local, that's our time, which is about 2 hours ago. They're members of the 4th Tactical Fighter Wing. As you recall, the F-15 is designed as an air-to-air combat plane, usually used to defend other planes in the region or to protect an airspace.
Stay with us for a second, Bill. Israeli radio is reporting now from Jerusalem also that Iraqi radio, or Baghdad radio, which is the official radio, has gone off the air in Baghdad. Now, it's about 10 minutes before 3 tomorrow morning in Baghdad, so the fact that the official radio is off the air may not mean a great deal. But Gary Shepard has said a short while ago from Baghdad that the city was looking quite normal, though very quiet at that point. Gary, were you able to listen to the radio up until a little while ago?
To tell you the truth, Peter, we did not have Baghdad radio on. They do normally broadcast, though, well into the evening. I might point out that just a few moments ago, a great number of the city lights that we had been seeing, ground lights, have now been turned out. There are some still shining on the horizon, whether they be traffic lights or what have you. But between the horizon and here, there is a great deal of blackness that you can now see as you look west from this Al Rashid Hotel. And still, tracer fire from the ground, anti-aircraft fire apparently, still rising up into the sky, and the sound of explosions coming and going.
Okay, let's go.
As we speak.
Let's go to the White House now, where ABC's Britt Hume is standing by with news, right, Britt?
Peter, the president just a few minutes ago summoned his press secretary, Marlin Fitzwater, into the Oval Office. Fitzwater bolted out of his own office, rushed past reporters to go in there. They were calling to him, what's going on? He said, I'll tell you as soon as I can. There has been an unmistakable sense here all day, Peter, that something was imminent. An announcement of that, presumably from Fitzwater at first, and I'm sure followed very soon thereafter by the president, is coming.
Okay, Britt, thanks very much. Let's go back to Bob Zelnick and see if we can get some handle on why these F-15s may have gone up in the air. Am I correct, Bob, that they may have gone up because they were worried about the Iraqis getting their Air Force off the ground and coming at U.S. targets?
Well, that's one reason, Peter, but many of these F-15s have been modified into the F-15 Eagle, which is a very, very good attack plane attacking targets on the ground, and it's particularly good with its HARM missiles at taking out Iraqi air defenses once they turn their radar on. So that could be one explanation. Other planes that I would think were involved were the stealth fighters and possibly the FB-111 bombers, the longer-distance bombers, which are also based in the area.
As everybody in the country must know, this is one of those days on which there truly was a rumor every hour. Would there be an attack on this? The first day after the deadline for Saddam Hussein to withdraw his troops from Kuwait. And though we appear to be seeing, though we are certainly seeing, I shouldn't say appear to be seeing, all the signs of battle in Baghdad, as reported to us by Gary Shepard from the western side of the Tigris River in the center of the city, virtually, we are not able to confirm anything incoming from Americans. Gary, anything more to report at the moment?
Peter, everything is quieted down now. A short while ago, as I was saying, there was a great deal of tracer fire going up from the ground, bursts of red staccato-like nature. Now the sky is clear again. The sound of the anti-aircraft fire completely stopped. We have lost regular power here at the hotel. We're using emergency lights here in the ABC News office, and I am looking out, and I can still see ground lights on the horizon, but most of the city lights now appear to have been turned off.
In just about 5 minutes, we're going to get a report from the Israeli Defense Forces, as the military is called in Israel. There has been enormous concern there today, of course, that if war begins, Saddam Hussein might live up to his threat and attack Israel first in a concerted effort to divide the coalition of 26 nations, which is presently lined up in the Gulf against him. But there is no sign in Israel whatsoever at the moment that there has been any attack or even any suggested attack against Israel today. The Israelis have gone out of their way to say to us on a number of occasions they'd have about 2 hours to monitor the Iraqi Scud missiles being put into position, because it takes about 2 hours to get a Scud up in order to make the long-range flight that it would be with a limited amount of explosive, or perhaps, sadly to say, worse, from Iraq, from the western portion of Iraq to Israel. But in a couple of minutes, the Israelis are going to have something to say. The Israelis monitor the region very, very carefully, and they are the ones who reported to us a short while ago that Iraqi official radio had gone off the air in the middle of the night. It is about 5 minutes to 3 in the morning. Bob Zelnick, at the Pentagon again, give us some sense, if this were to begin, either has begun or would begin, what kind of air raid warnings would the Iraqis have? Do you know?
Well, that would depend very much on how effectively the U.S. Aircraft and perhaps cruise missiles as well demolish their radar and demolish their air defense system. That's one of the key questions of the early stages of this war, Peter. Under normal circumstances, they would have warnings of several minutes from their radar and their early warning network. But, of course, if we're using stealth fighters and those fighters effectively overcome enemy radar, if we're using long-range missiles to put them out, if we're using cruise missiles to otherwise affect key communication systems, they could have very, very little warning.
Okay, just to confirm to people at the moment, we do not know precisely that an American attack has begun from the air on Iraq. We do know what Gary Shepard has been seeing in downtown Baghdad, what appears to be a reaction to something in the air. But there is so much tension in the Middle East at the moment now that the Iraqis may be responding to a diversion mounted by the U.S. military. They may be responding to nothing. One battery may have opened up, which put fear into the other one or anticipation into the other one. And they've all been spewing anti-aircraft defense up into the air. But Gary has been unable to see, from his reasonably good vantage point there in Baghdad, any incoming aircraft at all, though they thought very early on they would say so. Britt Hume, perhaps if you could at the White House bring us, while we wait for both perhaps the press secretary to come out or the Israelis to say something a moment, bring us up to date on how the president has spent the rest of his day.
Well, the president has been very close to his top national security advisors today. He met with Secretary of State Baker, for example, this morning.
Britt, I apologize.
And then again at lunch.
Let me interrupt you again because the Associated Press has just moved from central Saudi Arabia, which may well be the command headquarters. The following bulletin: war with Iraq began early Thursday as a squadron of U.S. fighter bombers took off from the largest U.S. airbase in central Saudi Arabia. That is the U.S. military making an official announcement in Saudi Arabia, according to the Associated Press, that the attack against Iraq has begun. So what Gary Shepard has been watching from his hotel in Baghdad has not been a mock exercise. Britt, back to you briefly.
Well, I was just going to add, Peter, that one of the things that happened today that was quite unusual was Press Secretary Fitzwater went out of his way during his daily briefing of reporters to read an open letter to journalists. And it was not the first such appeal he had made, which was to get out of Iraq at once. It was, in fact, the third such appeal he has made in the last week, and we were later told that he was prompted to do so by the president, who was alarmed, we're told, by the continuing sight of American journalists reporting from Baghdad on television news reports.
Okay, Britt, thanks. It's 3 o'clock in the morning in the Persian Gulf at the moment. Let's go back to Saudi Arabia, where ABC's Bill Redeker, probably more than anybody else, Bill, can give us some sense that if this is correct, and the military has officially announced, as the AP is saying, that the attack has begun, give us an overall sense of what you know to be happening, given the planning, I should say. Stand by for a sec, Bill. We don't have your audio for just a second. If we could open his microphone for a second. Try again, Bill, would you?
We have to be a little bit careful on that confirmation. I'm not sure that we have an official Air Force confirmation yet. All of this does quote an Air Force official in central Riyadh. The aircraft, incidentally, that we're talking about, we have pictures of that were shot about a week ago at that particular airbase in the central part of the country. The ones that took off tonight reportedly were loaded heavily with bombs and underwing fuel tanks, which you can see there under the right wing and left wing. Those, incidentally, are to give it a little bit added range. It's about an hour or so flight north. They are also apparently armed with cannons and air-to-air missiles for self-defense. As Bob pointed out, the F-15E configuration not only is able to do air-to-air combat missions, but also air-to-ground. It can take out enemy targets on the ground as well.
Perhaps we can look at an overall map of the region now, because the U.S. attack would be mounted from a variety of places, from Saudi Arabia, from other countries in the Gulf, from sea as well. Bill, tell us about the stealth and the cruise missiles. The cruise, Gary Shepard in Baghdad. Gary, go ahead.
Okay, the battle has apparently reached here. We have just, you can probably hear in the background, now explosions. I can see at least one or two of them on the western horizon. And listen to this noise coming from the sky.
Go ahead, Gary. Keep talking.
The entire sky filled with tracers again, an incredible display. I mean, this looks like fireworks on the 4th of July multiplied by 100. And there are big flashes now in the western sky. I saw at least one obvious bomb blast due west of here. It was a huge red explosion. Quite a few other white flashes right.
Gary Shepard, can you hear us? Gary Shepard, do you hear us in Baghdad? Well, we have lost him for just a second at the very least. Gary Shepard is reporting from the Al Rashid Hotel in downtown Baghdad, where there are more than 100 journalists, and you heard Britt Hume, the White House correspondent, say earlier on that the President's press secretary had urged them to leave, and there was indeed a note of urgency in his note today, in his voice today, as he said those remaining journalists there should decide to come out. Baghdad is, of course, the largest city in Iraq. It's a city of almost 4 million people. And those attacks that Gary is referring to are on the western part of the city, which may be on a number of targets. They may be on targets belonging to the military high command. They may be on the military or civilian airfields, which are in the western part of the city. They may indeed be on a number of the anti-aircraft missile sites. Baghdad has a very significant, if we can look at the map again, please, has a very significant defense around Baghdad. Perhaps we can look at this one over here, gentlemen. Thank you very much. The map up on the upper left-hand side, which gives me the perimeter of Baghdad, will give people a sense, at least in terms of Iraq, if we'll zoom in on that. There are targets all over the country, of course. There are industrial sites. There are almost 60 air bases throughout the country, about 30 of which are bases of considerable use for the Iraqis at the moment, all of which are targets for this massive armada of American warplanes that everybody expected would take place when the battle began. The policy has been from the beginning to hit the Iraqis as hard as possible from the air at the very beginning and set the leadership off around Saddam Hussein, completely destabilize it if possible, get Saddam Hussein, if possible, in the view of many military people and political figures in the country as well, but also to suppress all of the Iraqi capability to mount missile attacks on U.S. forces subsequently, or for that matter to get the Iraqi Air Force off the ground and fighting. Let's go to the State Department, where our national security correspondent, John McCarthy, is standing by. John, just add to this at leisure.